Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kenny Lamons here with Medicare Millennials, and today I'm going to start a series of videos before we all get so busy with AEP that's just going to cover all of the rapid industry changes that we've experienced over the last couple of years, as well as what is changing right now and what we expect in the future. Before I jump into that, anybody who's new to the channel or you haven't watched in a while, I just want to clarify what the purpose of this channel is for. So again, Medicare Millennials, I started this channel several years ago just as an outlet, just a way to share my journey on trying to become a successful Medicare agent. I've done various senior market insurance products, and right now, as it stands today, the core of my business is serving the Medicare market. So I just take you along on that journey. What's working for me? What hasn't worked for me? What are my thoughts on the best way to build a Medicare book of business? If you would like coaching or resources, you can get that on my website. The link is always in the description, MedicareMillennials.com. I do provide just coaching calls as well as some different resources that might help you get started or add Medicare to your line of business. Okay, so what is today's video going to be about? This is going to be good. We're going to talk about prior authorization. We've got a brand new administration that's leading CMS, and we have had nothing but rapid changes the past few years. So what does that look like as it stands today with Dr. Oz and RFK, and what are they doing? What haven't they done so far? We're going to specifically talk about this new prior authorization. I guess it isn't really a law, but these pushes to change prior authorization. It's going to have effects on everybody. The next few videos, once I've completed AHIP for 2026 and I've kind of just looked at everything, I'm going to talk about what's changed for leads, what's working, what isn't, what are the new rules, can we do seminars, can we door knock, like everything to do with leads. Commissions, we've got companies slashing commissions, not paying commissions on certain policies. Like, is this going to be the new norm? Do we need to exit the business? Do we need to diversify? And I'll also just talk about the general state of selling Medicare. Like, what does it feel like in work? How does it work right now with the way compliance stands? So I'm going to cover a lot of good stuff. Today we're going to talk about prior authorization. I've got a positive and a negative thesis on this proposal for prior authorization changes, okay? So I'm going to propose both of those theses to you guys right now. And then we're just going to read what I thought was a good article from KFF, and I'm just going to kind of talk about some of the highlights that I'm hearing in the news, and you guys can take it from there. We'll see how this evolves. So the first thesis, I guess, is more of a negative outlook on it, and that is after you hear me kind of discuss what the news is saying about these prior authorization proposed changes, are that it's not really going to have any meaningful change, right? So it's not meaningfully going to change anything for beneficiaries, meaningfully change the bottom line for insurance companies, and therefore it won't meaningfully change the way that we operate as Medicare agents. And the only reason I say that as kind of the negative is this should be a good change. Prior authorization stands in the way of millions of people getting their care in a timely manner or maybe getting it at all. That hurts everybody, right? Like, nobody likes to get that phone call as an agent from a beneficiary who what their doctor wants them to get done either can't get done or it's delayed. What I'm reading right now, there's really no teeth to the prior authorization proposal, so it almost feels like it could be a charade or a show just for political, the well-being of political status, and that these insurance companies know if they just play ball here, they can move a thing around here, there, and it won't actually change what's happening for beneficiaries, for providers, and therefore for agents, okay? Thesis number 2 is that this is a beginning of a whole new era. So whether you like RFK and Dr. Oz and this new administration, maybe this is the beginning of what we're going to see is just rapid change, where we are actually going to see these insurance companies held more accountable for things like prior authorization, making access to care easier, putting control back into the hands of the beneficiary and the providers, as well as more efficiency. So just less fraud, waste, and abuse. And that might hurt the insurance company's bottom line in the beginning, but ultimately we're going to see a healthier, more thriving health insurance space in general, but particularly Medicare. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is the beginning of it. So which one of those it's going to be, I don't know. Here's kind of a summary I thought was great. If this is on KFF Health News, kffhealthnews.org. This is an excellent website to kind of keep up what's going on with Medicare. But I'm just going to kind of pull from it a little bit at a time. Dozens of insurance companies, so Cigna, Aetna, Humana, United Healthcare, have agreed to several measures, which include making fewer medical procedures subject to PA, prior authorization, and speeding up the review process. They also pledged to use clear language when communicating with patients and promised that medical professionals would review, actual people would review coverage denials. If you don't remember, in the news recently, there was kind of a scandal where AI was reviewing denials or reviewing authorizations, and things were getting denied. It's kind of pledging to put the human element back into that. Of course, this is being applauded by the administration, the current administration, but it's important to point out this pledge is not a mandate. That's directly from Dr. Oz, who's the administrator of CMS right now. This is an opportunity for the industry to show itself. If you've been in this business for any length of time, I don't have a lot of confidence in the industry, or AKA the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies, to show themselves. If they've known this was a problem for so long and this was making life difficult or even affecting the well-being of beneficiaries for so long, they should have made changes long ago. That's why my negative thesis was kind of out there as a possibility. So let's go on. Oz wants them to eliminate pre-approvals for things like knee arthroscopies, common minimally invasive procedures. They have agreed that patients who switch insurance plan from one to the other will continue current services for at least 90 days without facing any immediate prior authorization requirements. Let's see I want to read the boring stuff. There's no question that health insurers have a reputation problem, says Robert Hartwig, an insurance expert at the University of South Carolina. I don't think we need an expert to know, just look at what's happened recently, that insurance companies have a bad name. That is tough on beneficiaries, and it's really tough on agents who just want to serve our clients. We want to provide a good product. I want to see meaningful change happen in the prior authorization area, but they do have a terrible reputation, and they've earned that terrible reputation, unfortunately. So here's some of the key takeaways. Prior authorization isn't going anywhere. So this is not proposing that there is no prior authorization, and prior authorization has its place, okay? So we can't, fraud, waste, and abuse also happens on the behest of providers and beneficiaries, although, there also can be perpetrators of fraud, waste, and abuse. So we don't want doctors to be able to constantly, go get this surgery, go get this test constantly just to make money. So there's a place for prior authorization. It shouldn't go anywhere entirely, but it should be reformed, hopefully in a meaningful way. Reform efforts aren't anything new. Well, in other words, that's kind of where my negative thesis comes in. We've heard this before at different times in the past. Will there be any teeth, any rules, any mandates that actually require insurance companies to truly change the prior authorization process? Insurance companies were already supposed to be doing some of these things, and health insurers will likely increasingly rely on artificial intelligence. So part of the argument right now on why prior authorization is such a mess is because it's an old school system. A lot of it, doctors' offices and insurance companies are faxing back and forth, or they have to get on the phone and talk to one another. We haven't kind of caught up with technology in this industry to make prior authorization smoother and more automatic, right? So as long as there's no red flags, hypothetically, it should be able to run through in some type of online and AI-backed system. As long as there's no flags, it should be green-lit within a matter of minutes, and patients should be able to go get the care that their providers recommended that they think that they need. That's not the way it works today. So we need real-time decisions. My biggest takeaway from this article is that this is a great conversation that's starting. It could have implications on us as agents, both good and bad, but that most of the details are still up in the air. I find it very interesting. I'm going to be following it closely in some of my later videos, but leading up to AEP, as I talk about the industry status, I'll update any clear, real news that I get on this subject. Here's my final takeaway if you've made it this far into the video. I'm diversifying my business. I hope and pray that we can continue to operate as advocates for Medicare beneficiaries, as their agents, as brokers. But their insurance companies are being squeezed. They have profits that they want to retain and grow. and we are seeing them cut commissions entirely from plans. So I am diversifying my business. I will put a video out on how I'm doing that. However, I do not think that this squeeze or the prominence of AI is going to entirely get rid of the need for an advisor to help people apply for Medicare, understand Medicare, pick the right plan, and change every year. I hope it doesn't, but we are going to have to adapt and change, and we may even see lower commissions. Therefore, although I don't think advisors are going anywhere, I do think it could threaten our current business model as we operate today, and we're going to have to be adaptable and find new ways to have a thriving business. So I hope today's video was helpful. There's a lot of changes on the horizon, and I will continue to put out content here over the next 6 or 8 weeks before AEP begins. Have a good one.